Shabbat Shalom, family. Today our selection is Be Grateful.
Brotherhood. Praise Yah. The church oracles of the UCI, starting at 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim giveth, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yeshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 through 32, through chapter 5, 1 through 4. Let no corrupt communications proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby ye are sealed unto the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yeshua's sake hath forgiven you. Chapter 5, verse 1 through 4. Be ye therefore followers of Elohim as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication, and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you, as becometh saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 1 and 2. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verse 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verse 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. And if any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame, and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches.
Shabbat Shalom, family.
Shabbat Shalom.
And welcome to another Sabbath sermon that we're allowed to have here at the UCI. Yahweh has allowed us to make it to another Shabbat.
Praise Yah.
Yahweh's allowed us to come on to his little sanctuary. So hallelujah for that. And as the choir just sang, be grateful. So I'm grateful that we still have life. Let's all be grateful for the little that we have. Like it states, someone else wish they could be in your shoes. So let's be grateful for the little things we have, the little that Yahweh has provided for us, whatever that may be. Friendships, provisions, a roof over your head, health and strength. These are all things that we have to be grateful for. A place to be able to come and gather together on Yahweh's Sabbath day, on this holy day, on this separated day, sanctified day, to meet with like-minded brothers and sisters. So for that, Let's give thanks. The topic of today's sermon is a friend that's closer than a brother or sister. There's a saying, show me your friends and you show me who you are. This is not always the case, as some of us has friends who are not on this walk. But what keeps that friendship is that they respect who you are and what you're about. That's if you're walking the way you're supposed to walk and not dimming your light when you're around your friends. This aspect of friendship doesn't come easy. It takes you not just talking the talk, but walking the walk for those true friends to see how serious you are about this culture. Let's begin in Proverbs chapter 18. And start that at verse 1.
Through desire, a man having separated himself seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. A fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. When the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, and with ignominy reproach. The words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. It is not good to accept the person of the wicked, to overthrow the righteous in judgment. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth forth strokes. A fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. The words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. He also that is slothful in his work is brother to him that is a great waster. The name of Yahweh is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, and as a high wall in his own conceit. Before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty, and before honor is humility. He that answereth a matter before heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. The spirit of a man will sustain his weaknesses, but a wounded spirit who can bear? The heart of the prudent getteth knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeketh knowledge. A man's gift maketh room for him, and bringeth him before great men. He that is first in his own cause seemeth just, but his neighbor cometh and searcheth him. A lot causeth contentions to cease, and parteth between the mighty. A brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and their contentions are like the bars of a castle. A man's belly shall be satisfied with the fruit of his mouth, and with the increase of his lips shall he be filled. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of Yahweh. The poor useth entreaties, but the rich answereth roughly. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother.
So verse 24, a man that has friends must show himself friendly. It's kind of back to the saying of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Not do to people what they've done to you. So if you expect someone or you desire friends, you need to be able to show yourself as being friendly. At the end of the day, if you really meditate on chapter 18, there's so many keys on things that you can sit back and watch and then decide what type of friend this person is going to be. There's so many keys. Verse 3 says, when the wicked comes, then comes also contempt, and with ignominy reproach. Sit back and watch what happens when certain people come around. Then it goes, the words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. It is not good to accept the person of the wicked, to overthrow the righteous in judgment. So pick your side. See what kind of argument are you trying to get me into? What kind of situation are you trying to put me in? Why are we coming up against this man? There's so many keys in here. A fool's lip enter into contention and his mouth calls for stroke. A fool's mouth is his destruction. So if you want to know what a fool is, just sit back. Listen to what's coming out of their mouth. These are all key instructions on how you can decide who's a friend or what type of friend this individual is going to be that you choose to hang out with. It's all right in that whole chapter. Just make a picture of it in your head. And as you're observing it, he's a fool. Then it goes down and it tells you about the wise. It tells you about the slothful. It shows you all manner of man. So the key ingredients is right there. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 17. And we're going to read verses 55 through 18 and 11. 1 Samuel chapter 17 and verse 55.
You know what, my brother, even in that kind of relationship, be it with a friend, with a brother, with even in marriage, when someone is offended, you can really see how a relationship may be, within that offense.
Right.
Because if it's hard to, to make up, or if it's hard to accept an apology, then you truly see where that person's heart is.
Right.
Because, when everything is going smooth, it's all good. But you really see when some kind of rift, some kind of obstacle comes along, you truly see how a person really feel about you, if they can move on from that or not.
Right. You see those when everything going good, they call those fair weather friends.
Yeah.
The minute things get rough, you can't find them. Or you look at some friends. Hey man, how come is it only hear from you when you want something?
Right.
So the ingredients are there in that whole chapter.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to meditate on it with person after person. First Samuel, go ahead.
1 Samuel chapter 17 and verse 55. Start 55.
Yes.
And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistine, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, As your soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. And the king said, Inquire you whose son the stripling is. And David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine. Abner took him and brought him before Saul, with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son are you? You, young man. And David answered, I am the son of your servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite.
You have to keep in consideration, David was taking care of sheep. So if he's out in the fields keeping with the sheep, that's why they're saying, who is he? He's not somebody that's in the neighborhood per se, hanging out with all the other children. So that's why they're like, well, who's this boy? I don't know. Go ahead.
Chapter 18 and verse 1. And it came to pass, when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul, that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day, and would let him go no more home to his father's house. Then Jonathan and David made a covenant, because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him, and gave it to David, and his garments, even to his sword, and to his bow, and to his girdle.
So at this point, you can see Jonathan has no respect of persons. Here's a lowly sheep herder. Jonathan is a man of stature. He's a prince. He's the king's son. But here he is, he's taking off his royal apparel and giving it to this shepherd boy. who for whatever reason, his soul has taken to him. And I'm sure we've all had friends or people that we meet and you get to talk and it's like, man, it seems like we've known each other forever. And that's the situation we're reading of here, where that kindred spirit between Jonathan and Dawid that Jonathan just took to him. I don't care what class you're from. There's people that would have a problem with that. You're beneath me. But for whatever reason, Jonathan found friendship, great friendship in Dawid, that he was willing to say, hey man, here's my stuff. Go ahead.
And Dawid went out whithersoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely. And Saul set him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. And it came to pass as they came, when Dawid was returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, that the women came out of all cities of Israel, singing and dancing, to meet King Saul, with tabrets, with joy, and with instruments of music. And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul hath slain his thousands, and Dawid his 10,000s. And Saul was very angry, and the saying displeased him, and he said, they have ascribed unto Dawid 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? And Saul eyed Dawid from that day and forward. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from Elohim came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and Dawid played with his hand, as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. And Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite Dawid even to the wall with it. And Dawid avoided out of his presence twice.
Now, Saul was the one that inquired about Dawid. Saul was the one who even asked Dawid's father to let him stay with him. Because remember, Dawid first was the one that would appease that evil spirit when it came upon him. But because of a song, this man now is ready to kill this young man. It goes to show you how he's not comfortable with himself. He's not comfortable with his position. Because as a ruler, you would want your soldiers and your captains or whatever to go out and exceed. And even in a corporation, a company, in a family, head of the house, get comfortable that there's people that's going to have abilities that you don't have. There's people that's going to have strong suits that you don't have. You don't envy those strong suits. What you do is you figure out where that strong suit belongs, and you put that strong suit to work. If your wife is better at the finances than you are, let her handle the finances. And in some cases, if she's better at the oil change than you are, let her change the oil. Because we do have some sisters who can get up on their car and do oil changes. But what do you get? Your friends, oh man, your woman changing the oil, you don't know how to change the oil? Hey, I'm a bragging bros. Can yours do it? Many a times I'm driving a little stick shift car and people go, oh man, that's your car. I go, no, it's my wife's. Next thing, your wife drives a stick? Yeah, why not? It's like this amazement. But figure out where your strong suits are. You can't be strong in all areas. That's even with friendships. There's this old thing that we've forgotten called barter. Barter used to keep a lot of friendships. I know how to do one thing, you know how to do something else. We get together and we we trade off work. That's why it's called a trade. This is my trade, that's your trade. Let's trade. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 19 and watch the progression of this friendship and how strong this friendship becomes, even with Jonathan's father Saul having a problem with Dawid.
1 Samuel chapter 19 and verse 1. And Saul spake to Jonathan his son, and to all his servants, that they should kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David. And Jonathan told David, saying, Saul my father seeketh to kill thee. Now therefore I pray thee, take heed to thyself until the morning, and abide in a secret place, and hide thyself. And I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where thou art, and I will commune with thy father of thee, and what I see, that I will tell thee. And Jonathan spake good of David unto Saul his father, and said unto him, Let not the king sin against his servant, against David, because he hath not sinned against you, and because his works have been to thee word very good. For he did put his life in his hand and slew the Philistine, and Yahweh wrought a great salvation for all Israel. Thou sawest it, and didst rejoice. Wherefore then wilt thou sin against innocent blood, to slay David without a cause? And Saul hearkened unto the voice of Jonathan, and Saul sware, As Yahweh liveth, he shall not be slain.
So how many people will actually step up to their parents to justify their friend, a righteous friend? You know, we all sit in this room, and everyone who's listening, all of our parents have some type of jaded view that they've tried to instill in us. How many ever stepped up? Because I know as an islander, you got certain island people who don't like other island people. Mm-hmm. And I know as Americans, there's Americans who are taught not to like other people. Especially when you get this, man, these foreigners coming over here and taking all our jobs. So let's all be realistic. How many people will stand up for their so-called friends to your parents and say, look, I've had to do it. In high school, my father didn't care for one of my friends. Why? It wasn't because he did anything wrong. It was just because of where he came from. And I had to look at my dad and say, hey, this man's a human being just like you and me. What's the problem? Go ahead.
You know, I never understood the fact of, you know, saying, why these foreigners coming over to take the jobs? If the job is available, if the job is there to open, position is there to be taken, then, it's going to be taken by somebody else if you don't take it.
But at the end of the day, I think we all forget we're all foreigners.
Yeah.
Every single person here is a foreigner.
Yeah, that too.
So that's the big joke. Mm-hmm. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 20. And we'll start that at verse 1.
And David fled from Naioth in Ramah, and came and said before Jonathan, What have I done? What is my lawlessness? And what is my sin before thy father, that he seeketh my life? And he said unto him, Elohim forbid, thou shalt not die. Behold, my father will do nothing, either great or small, but that he will show it me. And why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. And David sware moreover and said, Thy father certainly knoweth that I have found grace in thine eyes. And he saith, Let not Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly, as Yahweh liveth, as thy soul liveth, there is but a step between me and death.
Now, you got to understand Jonathan's position. When you go back to verse 19 in chapter 6, his father swore that he wouldn't kill him. So is he naive? No, he's going off of the word that was given to him by his father, not only just his father, the king. So where does a man's word stand if you're going to tell me one thing, but you're doing something else? Go ahead.
Then said Jonathan unto David, Whatsoever thy soul desireth, I will even do it for you. And David said unto Jonathan, Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit with the king at meat. but let me go, that I may hide myself in the field unto the third day at even.
Now, verse 4, be careful how you put that out there and know the friend that you say this to. Then said Jonathan unto David, whatsoever your soul desires, I'll even do it for you. Please don't use that loosely. And know to whom you are saying that. Because you might find yourself in a world of hurt. Go ahead.
1 Samuel chapter 20 and verse 6. If thy father at all miss me, then say, David earnestly asked leave of me that he might run to Bethlehem, his city. For there is a yearly sacrifice there for all the family. If he say thus, it is well, thy servant shall have peace. But if he be very angry, then be sure that evil is determined by him. Therefore thou shalt deal kindly with thy servant, for thou hast brought thy servant into a covenant of Yahweh with thee. Notwithstanding, if there be in me lawlessness, slay me thyself, for why shouldest thou bring me to thy father? And Jonathan said, far be it from thee. For if I knew certainly that evil were determined by my father to come upon thee, then would not I tell thee? Then said David to Jonathan, who shall tell me? Or what if thy father answer thee roughly? And Jonathan said unto David, come, and let us go out into the field. And they went out both of them into the field. And Jonathan said unto David, O Yahweh Elohim of Israel, when I have sounded my father about tomorrow at any time, or the third day, and behold, if there be good toward David, I then send not unto thee, and show it thee, Yahweh do so, and much more to Jonathan. But if it please my father to do thee evil, then I will show it thee, and send thee away, that thou mayest go in peace, and Yahweh be with thee, and he hath been as he hath been with my father. And thou shalt not only while yet I live show me the kindness of Yahweh, that I die not, but also thou shalt not cut off thy kindness from my house forever. No, not when Yahweh hath cut off the enemies of David, every one from the face of the earth. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, let Yahweh even require it at the hand of David's enemies. And Jonathan caused David to swear again, because he loved him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul.
So, verse 15, a covenant and a promise was made by David. But also you shall not cut off your kindness from my house forever. They entered into a vow. And Jonathan had him commit to that vow more than once. Go ahead.
Then Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon, and thou shalt be missed, because thy seat will be empty. And when thou hast stayed 3 days, then thou shalt go down quickly, and come to the place where thou didst hide thyself, when the business was in hand, and shalt remain by the stone Ezel. And I will shoot 3 arrows on the side thereof, as though I shot at a mark. And behold, I will send a lad, saying, go, find out the arrows. If I expressly say unto the lad, behold, the arrows are on the side of thee, take them, then come you. For there is peace to thee, and no hurt, as Yahweh liveth. But if I say thus unto the young man, behold, the arrows are beyond thee, go thy way, for Yahweh hath sent thee away. And as touching the matter which thou and I have spoken of, behold, Yahweh be between you and me forever.
So right here, he is bringing back up verse 15. As far as the matter that we spoke about, Yahweh be between me and you. Because he also knows at this point, he's hazarding his life going to speak to his father about this situation. And Nathan is not stupid. He knows what manner of man his father is. He knows his father will kill any and everyone if it's going against what he wants. Go ahead.
1 Samuel chapter 20, verse 24. So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat. And the king sat upon his seat, as the other times, even upon the seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought, something hath befallen him. He is not clean, surely he is not clean. And it came to pass on the morrow, which was the 2nd day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, Wherefore cometh not the son of Jesse to meat, neither yesterday nor today? And Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked leave of me to go to Bethlehem. And he said, Let me go, I pray thee, for our family hath a sacrifice in the city. And my brother, he hath commanded me to be there. And now, if I have found favor in thine eyes, let me get away, I pray thee, and see my brethren. Therefore he cometh not unto the king's table. Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan. And he said unto him, Thou son of the perverse, rebellious woman, do not I know that thou hast chosen the son of Jesse to thine own confusion, and unto the confusion of thy mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse liveth upon the ground, thou shalt not be established, nor thy kingdom. Wherefore now send and fetch him unto me, for he shall surely die.
So now he's realizing that his father's not going to live up to the word that he told him. Go ahead.
And Jonathan answered Saul his father, and said unto him, Wherefore shall he be slain? What hath he done? And Saul cast a javelin at him to smite him, whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay David.
So now you understand verse 15 why Jonathan also put a clause in what he was up to. I need you to take care of my family because I'm about to tread on some dangerous grounds. Go ahead. Verse 34.
Verse 34. Thank you, bro. So Jonathan arose from the table in fierce anger, and did eat no meat the 2nd day of the month. For he was grieved for David, because his father had done him shame. And it came to pass in the morning that Jonathan went out into the field at the time appointed with David, and a little lad with him. And he said unto his lad, Run, find out now the arrows which I shoot. And as the lad ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. And when the lad was come to the place of the arrow which Jonathan had shot, Jonathan cried after the lad, and said, Is not the arrow beyond thee? And Jonathan cried after the lad, Make speed, haste, stay not. And Jonathan's lad gathered up the arrows, and came to his master. But the lad knew not anything, only Jonathan and David knew the matter. And Jonathan gave his artillery unto his lad, and said unto him, Go, carry them to the city. And as soon as the lad was gone, David arose out of a place toward the south, and fell on his face to the ground, and bowed himself 3 times. And they kissed one another, and wept with one another, until David seated. And Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, for as much as we have sworn both of us in the name of Yahweh, saying, Yahweh be with me and you, and between my seed and your seed forever. And he arose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city.
So he says, Yahweh be between me and you, and between your seed and my seed forever. So now here's a parting of a friendship. It's a sorrowful parting because now he realizes that his own father is looking to kill his friend. But how many of us would put our lives in jeopardy, especially if you're in good standings, especially if you're of royalty, especially if you've got money, for a friend who's not up to the standards that you're at? How many of us would risk it all? Because he's risking it all. He's risking his life. He's risking his position to look out for a friend. So when we read earlier, to a man who wants friends, you need to show yourself friendly. But of course, still judge the friends that you're putting yourself online for. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 9. Let's keep in mind of this covenant that was made in verse 15. 2 Samuel chapter 9. We're going to start at verse 1.
And David said, Is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for your Nathan's sake?
So now David is in rulership. David is now the king. Jonathan is dead. Saul is dead. So as he's sitting there in power, he's now reflecting on a few things. Go ahead.
And there was of the house of Saul a servant whose name was Ziba. And when they had called him unto David, the king said unto him, Are you Ziba? And he said, Thy servant is he. And the king said, Is there not yet any of the house of Saul, that I may show the kindness of Elohim unto him? And Ziba said unto the king, Jonathan hath yet a son, which is lame on his feet. And the king said unto him, Where is he? And Ziba said unto the king, Behold, he is in the house of Machir, the son of Amiel, in Lo Debar. Then King David sent and fetched him out of the house of Machir, the son of
Amiel,
from Lo Debar. Now when
Mephibosheth.
What's that again?
Mephibosheth.
Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was come unto David. He fell on his face and did reverence. And David said, Mephibosheth. And he answered, Behold, thy servant. And David said unto him, Fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake. And I will restore thee all the land of Saul thy father, and thou shalt eat bread at my table continually.
So verse 7, he said, And David said unto him, Fear not, for I will surely show you kindness for Jonathan your father's sake. When we go back to 1 Samuel chapter 20 and verse 15, But also you shall not cut off your kindness from my house forever. David is living up to the promise he made his friend. Go ahead.
The last part of verse 6, And he answered, Behold, thy servant. And David said unto him, Fear not, for I will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan thy father's sake. Oh, I read that already. Excuse me, y'all.
Verse 8.
And he bowed himself and said, What is thy servant, that thou shouldest look upon such a dead dog as I am?
So now he's questioning, why are you showing me any kind of favor? That leads you to the fact that he does not understand the relationship that David had with his father. He does not know anything about the vows made between these two men. So the fact that he doesn't even know, David could have easily just reneged. But you still got to deal with your own self, your own heart. You know, I've heard of people saying that somebody that they owed money passed away and they had the money. They went and gave it to the people's family. It's one of those things, because this person passed, you still owe a debt. If they've got survivors, why not take care of your debt? You think because it's their debt, it's dead with them? You try that with the government. You will die and the government will pass your bills on to your family. Go ahead.
2 Samuel chapter 9 and verse 9. Then the king called Ziba, Saul's servant, and said unto him, I have given unto thy master's son all that pertained to Saul and to all his house. Thou therefore and thy sons and thy servants shall till the land for him, and thou shalt bring in the fruits, that thy master's son may have food to eat. But Mephibosheth, thy master's son, shall eat bread always at my table. Now Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants.
Now, his servant is even getting to enjoy this vow that was made. He's getting to partake in a vow made between two friends. Go ahead.
Then said Ziba unto the king, according to all that my master the king hath commanded his servant, so shall thy servant do. As for Mephibosheth, said the king, he shall eat at my table as one of the king's sons. And Mephibosheth had a young son whose name was Micah, and all that dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants unto Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table, and was lame on both his feet.
Let's go to Proverbs chapter 17. So David did what was necessary. He lived up to his word, unlike Jonathan's father, Saul, who told him, hey, he's not going to die. But that's a true friend. And at that, even with that, I don't know if Jonathan, how many brothers Jonathan had, because Saul had a big house. But you can see the friendship between them. And then he takes his son on as his own son and caretakes for him, as a brother would do for a passing brother, or as a brother should do for a brother who's passed on. So I would say that little knit there is a true brotherhood. A covenant was made between them, a brotherhood. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 6. Children's children are the crown of old men, and the glory of children are their fathers. Excellent speech becometh not a fool, much less do lying lips a prince. A gift is as a precious stone in the eyes of him that hath it. Whithersoever it turneth, it prospereth. He that covereth a transgression seeketh love, but he that repeateth a matter separateth very friends.
And that's when we get the talebearers. Certain situations, you just leave it alone and let it die. But some people can't do that. They got to keep mess going on and on and on and on. Honestly, sometimes I think as far as the UCI goes, if we don't crap, some people don't have nothing to eat. They just got to keep mess going. People will leave here, but yet they so concerned about what's going on here. You left. In many cases, they will tell the story that they were put out. But if you examine the whole situation, no, they made a decision and left. But even with leaving, they can't stay gone. They've got to be calling somebody, running into somebody to find out what's going on here. So then, when things would have ceased and gone on and people move on, it can't happen. Once again, be grateful. What is it about this little place that everybody is so concerned, that everybody's got to send spies. Everybody's got to send somebody, call somebody to inquire. At that point, if you're listening, check yourself, because Lucifer is using you. He is that afraid of this little place. But we're going to continue to move on. We're not going to just keep it in the road. We're going to take it down the road of salvation. Some people are content just holding it in the road. No, we're going to continue to travel down the road to salvation, no matter how slow it may be. We're going to pace ourselves so we can endure to the end. But if inquiring about what happens here is the only thing that brings some excitement in your life, we're here. Drop in, spy in, call in. Do what you have to. But as far as in here, we're going to keep the mess, the minimum in zero. Go ahead.
Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 10. A reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. An evil man seeketh only rebellion. Therefore a cruel messenger shall be sent against him.
And that's what you get from those people. When you look at their actions, it's rebellion. But they'll be quick to tell you, no, I was put out. No, why don't you back up and look at your actions and your deeds and see how long you have been rebellious? But most times we don't figure out the rebellion until we hit the wall, and then we start backing up and rewinding, and we start replaying past actions, and we're like, you know, this has been going on for quite some time. Go ahead.
Let a bear robbed of her whelps meet a man rather than a fool in his folly. Whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. The beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water. Therefore leave off contention before it meddleth with.
Before it be meddled.
Before it be meddleth with. He that justifieth the wicked, and he that condemneth the just, even they both are abomination to Yahweh. Wherefore is there a price in the hand of a fool to get wisdom, seeing he hath no heart to it? Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity.
So verse 17, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Love also comes in the form of rebuke. Love also comes in the form of correction. Not the lovey-dovey huggy stuff. If I love you and I see you going wrong, I'm going to put a word out there. But at the point where it gets to where I realize that there ain't no use of talking to you, I'm going to back up. Because then at that point, I'm going to love you from a distance. We just read about that last word here. It says, and a brother is born for adversity. Adversity, H3511, Kihaba. From H3510, suffering, physical or mental, adversity, grief, pain, and sorrow. This is what it says a brother is born for. So for those of you who don't have siblings, you will never understand what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. I see my youngest one back there smiling from ear to ear. When you have siblings, you truly will understand the headaches, the pains. I like this. I don't like that. Lend me this. Leave my stuff alone. But you have those same growing pains with friends as well. But it's how we deal with one another that makes a difference in the end. Because even a blood brother can be your friend, should be your friend. There should be a stronger bond in that friendship. So then you understand what it really means when it says there's a friend that's closer than a brother. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 17. Let's take a look at the brother side of this now. 1 Samuel chapter 17, and we're going to start at verse 17.
And Jesse said unto David his son, Take now for thy brethren an ephah of this parched corn and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren. And carry these 10 cheeses unto the captain of their 1,000, and look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with a keeper, and took and went, and Jesse had commanded, as Jesse has commanded him, and he came to the trench, as the host was going forth to the fight, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him, and were so afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine, that he should defy the armies of the living Elohim? And the people answered him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killeth him. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, Why camest you down here? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your pride, and the naughtiness of thine heart. For thou art come down, that thou mightest see the battle. And David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause?
Now, verse 22, he ran into his brothers and saluted them. He was happy to see them. There's no telling how long they've been out fighting war. He's running in to his brothers, happy to see his brother, just to get shot down by the oldest one. Man, what I do now? But there's usually that contention with the younger one, because a lot of times the younger one starts to get away with stuff that the older ones didn't get away with. So he's the man, and of course, this is not the first time, because you heard he said, what did I do now? So there's always that issue between them. But these are brothers. What do we read? A brother is born for adversity. Let's go to Genesis chapter 37. And it was this very event that allowed for Saul to start putting his eyes on David when nobody else would step up. And here comes this young shepherd boy who stepped up where big men wouldn't stand up and do what they were supposed to do. Genesis chapter 37, we're going to start at verse 2. Let's look at some more brotherly love.
These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his fathers their evil report.
So he's a tattletale. He carrying news. He's keeping problems. So in this situation, if that's what he's doing, of course the brothers ain't gonna be happy with you. You wouldn't be happy with your brother if he was running back and telling everything you did. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors.
And like I just mentioned, Eliab jumped on David. Eliab was the oldest. David was probably getting some different treatment. We see here, Joseph is getting different treatment, because at this point, he's the youngest one. So there's an issue going on. This is the son of his old age. There's some favoritism, which is then causing more of a rift between these brothers. Go ahead.
And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him.
And let me correct that. At this point, he's not the youngest, because you still have Benjamin, but he's the one who came in his old age. So even with that, there's probably many years age difference between his older brothers and him. So at this point, you're the pesky little kid. Mm-hmm. Everything that he wants to get into everything that they're doing. But you running back and telling everything. That causes a problem. Go ahead.
Genesis chapter 37 and verse 5. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf.
And just to correct, yes, at this point he is the youngest. He is the youngest. He's getting all this favoritism. As time goes on, we will see Benjamin come on the scene. Go ahead.
And his brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to you, to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, Do not your brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, Here am I. And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem.
Now, we see this same situation with Dawid. Dawid was sent to take provisions on to his brothers and see about their welfare. Now, when we read right here, so he sent him out of the vale of Hebron. What does that mean? He's leaving his place of protection. He's now outside of the hedge that's placed around him. So as long as he's in Hebron, who knows? Everybody probably knows the whole family. Everybody knows who he is, who his kindred are. Once he left out of there, he's outside of that protection, outside of that community. Go ahead.
And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks? And the man said, They are departed hence. For I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh.
So these older boys have more of a bond between them than they've got with Joseph. They've got more of a friendship with each other than they've got with Joseph. But there's a bit of envy there. Several things causing problems between them. The fact that he keep running back and telling everything. And then there's also this love that the Father shows towards him and sanctifies him or separates him from the rest of them, which then becomes obvious. Let's go to Matthew chapter 12. And when you continue to read about Joseph, along the way, Joseph was respected. Joseph made friends. Joseph was second in command to Pharaoh. So at some point, there was a friendship developed, a respect between him and Pharaoh. Even before that, when he was in the house and he was accused of rape, everything was fine between him and that man until a little jealousy came in. Someone desiring something that they shouldn't have. It was to the point that this man trusted him with everything. So to get to that, I would assume there would have to be some type of friendship. Because I don't think you're going to just trust a total stranger with everything. Something had to develop for this man to at some point say, you know what? Man, everything's in your power. But that same power given to him then makes this man's wife start putting her eyes on this young man. Go ahead.
Matthew chapter 12, and starting at verse 23. And all the people were amazed and said, Is not this the son of David? But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, This fellow doth not cast out devils, but by Beelzebub, the prince of the devils. And Yeshua knew their thoughts, and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? And if I, by Beelzebub, cast out devils, by whom do your children cast them out? Therefore they shall be your judges. But if I cast out devils by the Spirit of Elohim, then the kingdom of Elohim is come unto you. Or else how can one enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he first bind the strong man, and then he will spoil his house? He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad. Wherefore I say unto you, all manner of sin and blasphemy shall be forgiven unto men, but the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit shall not be forgiven unto men. And whosoever speaketh a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But whosoever speaketh against the Holy Spirit, it shall not be forgiven him, neither in this world, neither in the world to come. Either make the tree good and his fruit good, or else make the tree corrupt and his fruit corrupt.
Jump down to verse 46 for me.
Okay. While he yet talked to the people, behold, his mother and his brethren stood without, desiring to speak with him. Then one said unto him, behold, thy mother and thy brethren stand without, desiring to speak with thee. But he answered and said unto him that told him, who is my mother, and who are my brethren? And he stretched forth his hand toward his disciples, and said, behold my mother and my brethren. For whosoever shall do the will of my Father, which is in heaven, the same is my brother and sister and mother.
So he was able to make this determination because these are men that he worked with. They've gone through things together. So you constantly hear about him and his disciples, but he had brothers. He had sisters. You want to know the true worth of a man or a friend? Work beside him. You can work beside some people and they'll let you take the brunt of the work and stand there and watch you. Mm-hmm. But at this point, he's saying, nah, these people have been doing the will of my Father. They've been right here with me. These are my brothers. This is my sister. This is my mother. These people who will get down in these trenches with me and do this work. Another way of how to examine friends. How many people just come by, like Brother Eliel mentioned earlier, just for the good times? Throw a party at your house and see how many people actually stick behind to help you clean up. Mm-hmm. See how many people actually call you before time and say, hey, you need any help setting up? Those are things to measure true friendship. I've had a friend stay at my house. I'm outside cutting the grass and this joker in the window looking out. For real?
He wasn't pointing at me. No, just to let you know. I mean, I saw his thumb, but let's let you know he wasn't. Not me. Not me.
You know, you're giving a person a roof over their head and a meal, but you won't jump out and say, hey, you need some help? When it was almost done, he said, bruh, if I have to ask you to come and help me, you didn't really want to help. Just little things that you can put into play and watch and see who people truly are. He's referring to people that are on the job with him. Let's go to Luke chapter 16. Luke chapter 16, and we're going to read verses 1 through 12.
Luke chapter 16 and verse 1. And he said also unto his disciples, there was a certain rich man which had a steward, and the same was accused unto him that he had wasted his goods. And he called him and said unto him, how is it that I hear this of thee? Give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest be no longer steward. Then the steward said within himself, what shall I do? For my master taketh away from me the stewardship. I cannot dig. To beg I am ashamed. I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. So he called every one of his master's debtors unto him, and said unto the first, how much owest you unto my master? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said unto him, take your bill, and sit it down quickly, and write 50. Then said he to another, and how much owest you? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said unto him, take your bill, and write 80. And the master commanded the unjust steward, because he had done wisely, for the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light.
Verse 8, and the master commended the unjust steward because he had done wisely. At this point, he's not doing this to please the master. He's trying to make friendships with these people. Because if you owe my master $1 million and I tell you, hey man, just go ahead and cut this man a check for 500,000. You looking at me? For real? Yeah man, just go ahead and I'll take care of it. So he's making himself in a different light with all these different people. He's done got it in his mind. He's losing his job. Mm-hmm. But now to make some alliances and some alignments with some other people, let me do this over here for them. Because at the end of the day, I'm clearing their debt because I'm still in this position. So when I validate it, it's validated. He can't change it. I'm out of a job. But hey, man, their debts were settled. Mm-hmm. They're going to be okay with me. But he said, I can't dig. He has no skills. This is all he knows. But hey, let me make friends with these people. And maybe they'll sustain me when hard times come. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And I say unto you, make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. If therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? And if ye have not been faithful in the which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own?
All right, let's go to Proverbs chapter 6. So in this whole thing, we hear the master commend him for doing a good job, but he was not doing that for the master's benefit. That was strictly for his benefit, to be in a different light with these people. And who is to say how hard he dealt with these people while in that position? Proverbs chapter 6 and read verse 1 through 3, please.
Okay. My son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth. Thou art taken with the words of thy mouth.
So these words came out of your mouth. You made a vow. Don't let the vows that you make with friends snare you. If it's something you know that you can't live up to, be careful what you let out of your mouth. David lived up to his vow that he made with Jonathan. That's why I said earlier, be careful of that. Whatever your heart's desire, I will do. As we live in a foul world. And some of the stuff we see on TV give us foul thoughts. And you go put an open-end statement out there like that, and you might find yourself regretting that you made such a vow. But then are you going to live up to the vow? Or are you going to forbear on the vow? An open-end situation like that can lead to you being put in an unrighteous situation. Go ahead.
Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself when thou art come into the hand of thy friend. Go humble thyself and make sure thy friend.
And that's what I was saying about the very first Proverbs 18. Humble yourself. Watch these situations. Watch the movements of people. And figure them out. Let's go to John chapter 6. That's John chapter 6. We're going to start at verse 41.
John chapter 6 and verse 41. The Yehudis then murmured at him because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. And they said, Is not this Yeshua, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he saith, I came down from heaven? Yeshua therefore answered and said unto them, Murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me, except the Father which hath sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, and they shall be all taught of Elohim. Every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. Not that any man hath seen the Father, save he which is of Elohim, he hath seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me hath everlasting life. I am that bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness, and are dead. This is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof, and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. The Yehudis therefore strove among themselves, saying, How can this man give us his flesh to eat? Then Yeshua said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man, and drink his blood, ye have no life in you. Whoso eateth my flesh, and drinketh my blood, hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh, and drinketh my blood, dwelleth in me, and I in him. As the living Father hath sent me, and I live by the Father, so he that eateth me, even he shall live by me. This is that bread which came down from heaven, not as your fathers did eat manna, and are dead. He that eateth of this bread shall live forever. These things said he in the synagogue, as he taught in Capernaum. Many therefore of his disciples, when they had heard this, said, This is a hard saying. Who can hear it? When Yeshua knew in himself that his disciples murmured at it, he said unto them, Does this offend you? What? And if ye shall see the Son of Man ascend up where he was before? It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit, and they are life. But there are some of you that believe not. For Yeshua knew from the beginning who they were that believed not, and who shall betray him. And he said, Therefore said I unto you, that no man can come unto me, except it were given unto him of my Father. From that time many of his disciples went back, and walked no more with him.
So as you're walking this walk of righteousness, as you're walking down this narrow path, as you're living this culture, that's what's going to happen. Only the true brothers and sisters are going to stick around. The rest are going to fall off. But you have to do like Yeshua did. You have to stick on the path. You have to continue on your journey. And then don't be dismayed when you see people fall off. Go ahead.
Then said Yeshua unto the 12, Will ye also go away? Then Simeon Peter answered him, Adonai, to whom shall we go? Thou hast the words of eternal life. And we believe and are sure that thou art the Mashiach, the Son of the living Elohim. Yeshua answered them, Have not I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? He spake of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simeon, for he it was that should betray him, being one of the 12.
Now verse 67, then said Yeshua unto the 12, Will you also go away? He spoke to all 12 of them, but only one man answered. Only one man answered. Let's go to Yohanan chapter 12, and let's read verse 1 through 6.
John chapter 12 and verse 1. Then Yeshua, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. There they made him a supper, and Martha served, but Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Yeshua, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. Then saith one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simeon's son, which should betray him, Why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence, and given to the poor? Then he said, Not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief, and had the bag, and bare what was put therein.
So some people endure just because they know they're benefiting from you. Yehudas is hanging on because he's able to benefit. Verse 6, this he said, not that he cared for the poor, but he made it seem like he was about the business. So do we humble ourselves and sit back to see who's, like we mentioned before, who's those fair weather friends who only come over to eat and drink up everything you got?
Time will tell, huh? Time will tell.
Was that at verse 6, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's go to chapter 13 and start at verse 1. But how many people will sit down and wait for the time? Or do you just get mad and run them off? Some people, you have to put them to a test. And you start, hey, bro, hey, can you help us clean up? You think you catch them at the door. And eventually they'll stop coming around. If they're truly just there for gain, eventually I'm like, oh, every time I go over there, you're trying to put me to work, man. I ain't going back over there. Go ahead.
John chapter 13 and verse 1. Now before the feast of the Passover, When Yeshua knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end. And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simeon's son, to betray him, Yeshua, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he was come from Elohim and went to Elohim, he rises from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. After that he poureth water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then cometh he to Simon Peter, and Cephas saith unto him, Adonai, dost thou wash my feet? Yeshua answered and said unto him, What I do you knowest not now, but you shall know hereafter.
So verse 5, after that he pours water into a basin, he began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then comes he to Simeon Peter, and Peter says unto him, Adonai, does you wash my feet? Once again, only one person speaking up. Go ahead.
Yeshua answered and said unto him, verse 8. Cephas saith unto him, Thou shalt never wash my feet. Yeshua answered him, If I wash thee not, thou hast no part with me. Simeon Peter saith unto him, Adonai, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.
So at this point, he's realizing something. You mean if you don't do this, our friendship's in jeopardy? Our bond is in jeopardy? Hey, man, go ahead, my feet, my hand, my head, everything. Because now he's realizing there's a bond in this. Go ahead.
Yeshua saith unto him, He that is washed needeth not saved to wash his feet, but is clean every whit. And ye are clean, but not all. For he knew who should betray him, therefore said he, Ye are not all clean. So after he had washed their feet, and had taken his garments, and was set down again, he said unto them, Know ye what I have done to you? Ye call me Master, and Adonai, and ye say, Well, for so I am. If I then, your Adonai and Master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example, that ye shall do as I have done to you. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his master, neither he that is sent greater than he that sent him. If you know these things, happy are ye if ye do them. I speak not of you all, I know whom I have chosen, but that the scripture may be fulfilled, he that eateth bread with me hath lifted up his heel against me. Now I tell you before it come, that when it is come to pass, ye may believe that I am he. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that receiveth whomsoever I send receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. When Yeshua had thus said, he was troubled in spirit, and testified and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. Then the disciples looked one on another, doubting of whom he spake. Now there was leaning on Yeshua's bosom one of his disciples, whom Yeshua loved. Simeon Peter therefore beckoned to him that he should ask who it should be of whom he spake.
So Cephas think that this person here has a closer bond with Yeshua than him. So let me use you in your friendship with him to see if you can find out who it is. Go ahead.
He then lying on Yeshua's breast saith unto him, Adonai, who is it?
So you see how he fell for that? He done fell for it. Go ahead.
Yeshua answered, He it is to whom I shall give a sop when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simeon. And after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then said Yeshua unto him, that thou doest, do quickly. Now, no man at the table knew for what intent he spake this unto him. For some of them thought, because Judas had the bag, that Yeshua had said unto him, By those things that we have need of against the feast, or that he should give something to the poor. He then, having received the sop, went immediately out, and it was night.
And we read earlier that Judas kept the bag. So now you should know your friends and who to entrust with what. Mm-hmm. Let's go to Yohanan chapter 1. And we're going to read verse 35 through 42.
Yohanan chapter 1 and verse 35. Again, the next day after Yohanan stood, and the two of his disciples, and looking upon Yeshua as he walked, he saith, Behold the Lamb of Elohim. And the two disciples heard him speak, and they followed Yeshua. Then Yeshua turned and saw them following, and saith unto them, What seek ye? They said unto him, Master, Rabbi, which is to say, being interpreted, Master, where dwellest thou? He saith unto them, Come and see. They came and saw where he dwelt, and abode with him that day, for it was about the 10th hour. One of the two which heard Yohanan speak and followed him was Andrew, Simeon Peter's brother. He first findeth his own brother Simeon, and saith unto him, We have found the Mashiach, which is being interpreted the anointed one. And he brought him to Yeshua, and when Yeshua beheld him, he said, You are Simeon, the son of Jonah. Thou shalt be called Cephas, which is by interpretation a stone.
So from day one of them meeting, there was already something about Cephas. And that's what I said earlier. Sometimes we have met people that y'all just get to talking, and it's like you've always known each other. Off the rip. Hey, you're going to be Cephas. You the rock. His brother went and got him. So, who's to say the brother, bro, I brought you on here. Mm-hmm. How you going to be the rock? I'm the one that went and got you. But from that initial meeting, and we read a couple different places where Peter's that one that keeps speaking up, keeps stepping up. Mm-hmm. Let's go to Matthew chapter 16. We're going to read verses 13 through 23. Matthew 16, starting at verse 13.
When Yeshua came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? And they said, Some say that thou art Yohanan the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He saith unto them, But whom say ye that I am? And Simeon Peter answered and said, Thou art the Mashiach, the anointed one, the son of the living Elohim.
Here we go. Cephas again speaking up. Go ahead.
And Yeshua answered and said unto him, Blessed are you, Simeon Barjona, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto you, that thou art Cephas, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it.
So Cephas is showing constantly that he's not afraid to step up and answer, to ask questions, to put himself out there. So now we can understand why this man is considered the rock. It's not that he was steady. We're going to get to some stuff to see, was he really that rock? But he wasn't afraid to keep putting himself out there. So by putting himself out there, he's becoming firmer and firmer and firmer and firmer, rooted by whatever correction or rebuke or ridicule. Because Yeshua ridiculed him at some point. Go ahead.
And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Yeshua the Mashiach. From that time forth began Yeshua to show unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day. Then Cephas took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Adonai, this shall not be unto thee. But he turned and said unto Cephas, Get thee behind me, Satan. Thou art an offense unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of Elohim, but those that be of men.
This was not privately done. This was in front of the rest of them. But this is the man that he's calling the rock. Let's go to verse 14. Chapter 14, pardon me.
Matthew chapter 14.
Start at verse 22.
22. And straightway Yeshua constrained his disciples to get into a ship and to go before him unto the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up into a mountain apart to pray. And when the evening was come, he was there alone. But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Yeshua went unto them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, It is a spirit. And they cried out for fear. But straightway Yeshua spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Cephas answered him and said, Adonai, if it be you, bid me come unto you on the water.
Here goes Cephas again. Wherever Yeshua is at, he wants to be there. Go ahead.
And he said, Come. And when Cephas was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Yeshua. But when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried, saying, Adonai, save me. And immediately Yeshua stretched forth his hand and caught him and said unto him, O you of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? And when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased.
That was it. And here's the thing with true friendship, that true brotherhood. In your time of trouble, your true friend should be able to save you. But at the same token, correct you and let you know, hey man, you lacking faith right now. Mm-hmm. That's what's brought you to this situation and this predicament. That's a true friend, a brother. But why did Cephas go out and was willing to step out there? Because he knew he could trust Yeshua. Good.
You know, I wanted to say, my brother, and I know sometimes we see, you know, just like how, you know, you see somebody in a position. It could be a king, a CEO of whatever position. Even like, you know, me and Kish, we still men. At the end of the day, even though, praise Yah, we may be a humble servant, a priest before Yahweh, if anything goes wrong, or if any one of us say something that's not according to scripture, or that's about to lead to one of us sinning, say something, because at the end of the day, is, you know, it's rebuking, you know, to a point where, you know, we can understand that, you know, something need to be done. And at the end of the day, even though we're in this position, it doesn't mean that, we can't hear you, because yet still, you're in front of us. Never think that.
You know, at the end of the day, that's true brotherly love. That's true sisterly love. You have to think about it. Cephas said to himself, Cephas said it out when he said, "Who do men say I am?" Cephas said, "You the Adonai. You the son of Elohim." So knowing all this, he still didn't tiptoe around and pretty it up and act like, "Oh man, this son of Elohim, let me just act like." No, he put it out there and he made his mistakes and he bumbled and he fumbled, but he got correction and he got put back on the path. Just like my brother is saying, none of us are at a level where you shouldn't feel if you see something out the way that you can't come and say something. That's true brotherly or sisterly love. Because at the end of the day, when it goes down and you say, "Well, I saw it," but then I might have to look at you differently. What kind of respect the persons are you having? Let's go to Luke chapter 22.
Verse 31.
Yeah, Luke chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 31 through 34.
And the Adonai said, Simeon, Simeon, behold, Satan hath desired to have you, that he may sift you as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that your faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren.
Now, back on the walking on the water. What did he say? "Oh, you of little faith. Why did you doubt?" And look what he's turning around and saying, "But I have prayed for you that your faith fail not." So he knows this man's got an issue with his faith. To some extent. It's not that he's faithless. He's not faithless. He's just lacking some faith. But then also he's letting them know Satan desires you. Why would Satan not desire him? He's the man next to the man. He's already said, "You the man that's going to take over." So if he can get him out of the way, then you kind of disrupt what's already set to come. Because he's already been set to be the next man. Go ahead.
You know what, too, my brother? Even in that, it says, "And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren." And that's the same thing as I want y'all to know that we are going through. Being converted and Yahweh changing from the old man, knowing what we are knowing, trying to strengthen and keep brothers and sisters on the right track. So that's one thing that we each individually have to, make sure we understand for ourselves too, that, we got to strengthen one another, and Yah as well keep each other on the straight and narrow. Verse 33. And he said unto him, Adonai, I am ready to go with thee both into prison and to death. And he said, I tell thee, Cephas, the cock shall not crow this day before that thou shalt thrice deny that thou knowest me.
So, once again, he say what? He lacking a little bit of faith. Cephas stepping up and speaking up boldly. But he knows you're not quite there yet. You don't know what you're saying right now. But did he let that deter the friendship? No, he helped to continue to encourage him and try to strengthen him the best he could. Let's jump to verse 54. Remember what he...
Go ahead, brother.
Forgive me. Remember, he just told him, you're going to deny me 3 times. Even though he said, man, I'm ready to go to prison. I'm ready to die. I'm a ride or die, brother. Go ahead.
Then took they him and led him and brought him into the high priest's house, and Cephas followed afar off. And when they had kindled a fire in the midst of the hall, and were set down together, Cephas sat down among them.
So he seemed like he's about the business. He's following, he's seeing what's going on. The rest of the disciples are nowhere around. They are gone. But to some extent, Cephas is trying to be tried and true. Go ahead.
But a certain maid beheld him as he sat by the fire, and earnestly looked upon him, and said, This man was also with him. And he denied him, saying, Woman, I know him not.
So now that he's starting to get turned up. Go ahead.
And after a little while, another saw him and said, Thou art also of them. And Cephas said, Man, I am not.
There's that boisterous wind. He's starting to hear that stuff in his ears, and it's making him real shaky and wobbly, just like he did when he was walking out on the sea. Go ahead.
And about the space of 1 hour after another, confidently affirmed, saying, Of a truth, this fellow also was with him, for he is a Galilean. And Cephas said, Man, I know not what thou sayest. And immediately, while he yet spake, the cock crew. And the Adonai turned and looked upon Cephas, and Cephas remembered the word of the Adonai, how he had said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And Cephas went out and wept bitterly.
So now, imagine, we all have an imagination. I want y'all to picture you in Cephas's place as you denied this man 3 times, and what kind of look he must have gave you. What kind of disappointing look he just gave you. And then all this comes to your remembrance. This man's heart is broken at this point. So he went out and wept bitterly. It's like Brother Eliel was saying earlier. When the hard situations and the hard stuff come, and you've got to deal with circumstance and situation, and it's time to give forgiveness or receive forgiveness, how are you going to deal with it? That says a lot. But let's look at Cephas. Let's go to Yohanan chapter 21, and we're going to read verses 11 through 17.
You know, brother, and that's why, you know, you go through life and sometimes you say, you know what, there's certain things you won't do, not being in the situation. And, you know, seeing what Cephas went through before he came to that situation, he was standing firm on the grounds that, he would not betray, he would not go against Yeshua. But that's the thing too, you know, sometimes we get into a situation and we do get down because of the decision that we make. that doesn't mean to stay down. You know, brush off and continue to walk within this higher calling that Yeshua gave you. Don't stay down. Get up and brush off.
Hey man, it's easier to stay down than to get back up.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Takes no effort to just lay there.
But that's the
The
thing.
ground is holding you, brother.
Well, what are you fighting for, you know? What else are you looking for? Yohanan chapter 21 and verse 11. Simeon Peter went up and drew the net to the land full of great fishes, 153. And for all there were so many, yet was not the net broken. Yeshua saith unto them, Come and dine. And none of the disciples durst ask him, Who are you? Knowing that it was the Adonai. Yeshua then cometh and taketh bread and giveth them, and fish likewise. This is now the third time that Yeshua showed himself to his disciples after that he was risen from the dead. So when they had dined, Yeshua saith to Simeon Peter, Simeon, son of Jonah, love thou me more than these? He saith unto him, Yea, Adonai, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my lambs. He saith to him again the second time, Simeon, son of Jonah, lovest thou me? He saith unto him, Yes, Adonai, thou knowest that I love thee. He saith unto him, Feed my sheep. He saith unto him the third time, Simeon, son of Jonah, lovest thou me? Cephas was grieved because he said unto him the third time, Lovest you me? And he said unto him, Adonai, thou knowest all things. Thou knowest that I love thee. Yeshua saith unto him, Feed my sheep.
So after it was all said and done, he's now putting him back into the right stance. We've heard before, he denied him 3 times. He just made him repent 3 times. Forgiveness 3 times. For those in the back, can you put back on the opening slide, please? So we can see that with Yeshua, he knows he's going to be away from the job for a little while. The friendship between him and Cephas allowed for him to know where Cephas stood and what Cephas was capable of doing. That's why he was made the rock. But we can see that the rock didn't just come out as the rock. It took time. It took mistakes. It took ridicule, correction for Cephas to really become that rock. And even after this, we still can go where Saul had some issues. But Saul took care of the business whenever it was brought to him. When something was brought to his attention where he was in error, Saul took care of the business. What you see in front of you right now is a friendship that has developed over years. But through our friendships, we kind of know one another. We have worked together in different capacities, in different arenas. So that's why, as one of us is not able to do the job, there's another one capable of being able to step up. And I must say to you in the room and to you listening, I appreciate all of you who have come forth and showed me that I've got many brothers and sisters in this walk. Mm-hmm. There's people that I communicate with by only phone. But the phone calls alone and the conversations that we have is a valuable friendship I am grateful for.
Yeah, praise God, bro.
And the things of correction, when you all reach out to ask questions, Like I've said, there's no such thing as a foolish question. But then it allows for you to go on another level so you can help another brother or another sister. And as we continue down this path, within whatever Lucifer is afraid of here, we're going to make it. I could have put many more pictures up because there's a lot of friendships with Priest Esaac and you guys, both in this room and on the internet. But if I found all those pictures and put them all up, there'd have been too many slides. So I thank you all for the prayers and supplications for our brother, our friend, as he's been down, but getting better day by day. Yeah. And what I was going to say is, as we continue to learn, as we continue to do these works, the bond of friendship, the bond of brotherhood and sisterhood is going to get to a point where anybody should be able to walk in this room, into this building, and shouldn't have to look for me, Eliel, Priest Esau, Mother Lael, Sister Rebecca, Sister Avi, Sister Atalia, to ask questions. Because we're going to continue to work together and improve to the point that if he and I are not sitting here, and I said it before, hey, many of y'all, not one or two of y'all, many of y'all should be able to step up to the calling. But once again, I'm grateful for all you, my brothers and sisters. May Yahweh continue to keep us grounded, rooted, together through whatever oppositions that the adversary throws our way. May Yahweh continue to bless and keep all of us, and continue to keep a hedge of protection around all of our homes, knowing all of our needs, so that we can continue to do what thus says Yah. We've got Day of Atonement coming up. That's this Wednesday. Begins at sundown. Thus says Yahweh. It's a commanded fast. Let's get our minds, our hearts, our spirits, our heads, and our bodies wrapped around it. That's all we're going to do for today. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.